Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. Now, we come to you this evening after the Mets' impressive victory in Milwaukee on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube. And this Met team continues to show you a cohesiveness, a depth, and a toughness that has belied this franchise for a while, but has been a big part of this team since at least June, or you want to say July, but especially since the early days of August, when they have been as good as any team in the major leagues, getting contributions from so many places. The depth of the Met lineup is what's striking to me. But tonight there was some very big plays in this game. The Mets got off to a first of all, you know how hard it is when you play to the last day of the season and now an extra day and then travel to win these series on the road. It's not easy. And today, two of them did it. The Tigers did it, and the Royals did it. They did it with brilliant pitching, and the Mets did it with grit and some gritty pitching. And all three road teams have won as we await the outcome of the game in San Diego. Now, here's the thing about this game. It couldn't have started off worse for the Mets, because when you give up runs right off the bat in these playoff games, they usually comes back to haunt you. Mets answered right back. And their manager had a very big day, not because he picked the right guys out of the bullpen. No. What he even did was he put the right guys in the lineup. Winker had been doing nothing. We know that. He had been absolutely awful for a while now. He had a dreadful September. Other than a big home run, he had done absolutely nothing. And he puts him in the lineup because he hits Peralta and he delivers a 2-run double. And then later in the game, he gets two big RBIs out of the same spot by pinch hitting Martinez when they bring in a lefty, and he grounds a ball through the right side, which you've seen him do a million times, for a big 2-run single. There were three big hits in this game for the Mets. Obviously, the 2-run double by Winker, that got the Mets right back in the game. The second was the 2-run single by Vientos, which was enormous. And this is what you like, that Vientos contributes without putting the ball out of the park, that he's not a one-dimensional player, that he can beat you with a couple of base hits, and he did tonight, got a couple of base hits, and that they got contributions from different places. It wasn't Lindor. It hasn't been Alonso in a while. It wasn't Nimmo. It was Winker. It was Vientos. It was Martinez, and especially Winker and Martinez have been so quiet for so long. And then Severino, who got off to a bad start, came back and did what a quality veteran pitcher does. When he gets some run support, when his team battles back, he shuts the door. He came back and gave them 6 innings, knowing that you didn't have Diaz tonight. And off 40 pitches, I didn't think there was any way you could put him out there. And if you had put him out there, it would have been a disaster. But they didn't have to put him out there. And Severino set the table for this being an easy game in the last couple of innings by retiring the last 8 guys, by getting zeros in the 5th and 6th inning after struggling the way he did. To get those innings and to finish that way is what you want to see out of a pitcher and what you hope to get in the playoffs out of a veteran starter. And then obviously Budo came in and was terrific. It was a rocking chair ninth. And they set a team that started off today like they were going to have a party. They set them down and shut that stadium down, quieted the ballpark, quieted the team, and put that city back on its heels one game in. Hey, if you don't respond quickly, these series are over before they start. Game 1 is enormously important. If you're on the road and you lose game one, you're probably done. I mean, it is going to take an incredible achievement to do that, depending how you came out of those last couple of days of the season. Now, the team that's home usually has had a chance to set up its rotation, set up its bullpen. It has been comfortable. It may have won by a mile like Milwaukee did, or it may have known it's been in the playoffs for months and months and months like the Orioles have. Didn't matter. When you get the big hit, when you get the big, well pitched game, that's what happens and that's what works in the postseason. But what you like today is the Mets gave you what they've given you since they turned this around. Tremendous depth in the lineup. So many different people contributing. So many different people in the lineup capable of contributing. The bench capable of contributing. Now, listen, anybody who's realistic knows that the Met bullpen is something that you're going to have to hold your breath about a lot of times in this postseason if you're going to go on any kind of ride. You're going to need a lot out of Diaz. You're going to need sometimes more than 3 outs out of Diaz, and you're going to need some really decent length out of your starting pitching because the bullpen's just not of that quality. Milwaukee's is, and it was terrible today. It just did not do the job, and you could see how unhappy the Milwaukee Brain Trust were with this game. They were really unhappy, and they should have been, because this is a team that usually plays great defense, and it didn't. This is a team that usually responds, and it didn't. And this is a team that usually pitches really well, and they're very confident to go to their pen. And he went to the pen when Peralta was throwing well. Peralta had done the job after that second inning. He had pitched well in the third and fourth innings, and he said, "Hey, I got a 4-3 lead. I'm going right to my pen. I'm going to flex my muscle." He went right to his pen, and he got hit with a 5-run inning. So he managed himself right out of the game because he could have gotten more out of Peralta, who threw. Let me see how many pitches he had thrown in the game, and he had clearly settled down. I mean, I don't think there was any question about it. He had settled down, and I thought from that standpoint, he had, given them. Peralta had thrown 68 pitches. He could have easily kept going, and he had put up zeros in the third and the fourth inning, and then he got pulled. And usually they do that. They go to the pen, and they get great response. They have one of the best pens in baseball. But tonight they went to that pen early, and it came back to absolutely bite them in the rear end. And he's got to be kicking himself because Peralta had more to give, just like Severino did. And Severino stayed in the game and left the game finally after throwing 100 pitches, left the game pitching well at the end of the game. It looked like Peralta had figured things out too and could have gone a couple of more innings there. And I understand they're used to, hey, if it's 4 out of the starter, fine. Our strength is our pen. Well, tonight, what was their strength? Crisp defense, crisp play, great bullpen wasn't there. So the Mets took the Brewers, who have owned them in what has been a house of horrors for the Mets. The Mets took them right out of their game, answered down 2-0, answered down 4-3, and then shut the door with zeros, having their pitching staff put up zeros in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th without a whisper, without any noise at all. This was one that had to actually shake the Brewers. There's no question. Big effort from the Mets, big effort from their manager, big effort from their bullpen, big effort from Severino, key hits from guys who have struggled, especially Winker and Martinez, who have to feel, hey, boy, it's been a long time since we have really contributed, but right now they're feeling good about themselves again because they have contributed right off the bat. And the postseason's a different deal. You could be 0 for 100 in August and September and then be a hero in October. October heroes come in all shapes and sizes. And you never know when it's going to be your October. And right now, one game in, it's the Mets, but also you got guys who, when they get to the ballpark tomorrow, are going to be not looking at that and shaking their head about 3 for 40s. They're going to be thinking about, I got a big 2 RBI knock. I got a really big 2 RBI knock. Vientes proved, hey, it's not going to be different for me in the postseason. Winker proved I can come out of this slump and contribute. Same thing for Martinez, who is such a big cog in that team. So this was good on so many levels. Really good on so many levels. Give the Tigers credit. And listen, the Tigers have been so hot. They're scary. And wasn't surprised today. I would be surprised if Houston went quietly into the night, but I'm not surprised at all that Scooble pitched well. That guy is sensational. 6 innings, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, shutout innings. Not surprised at all. Kansas City has pitching, and now the Orioles, who obviously it's been a long time since they have won in the postseason, are going to have to win against a guy who has been sensational. Lugo has had a brilliant year. You saw him throw a gem at Yankee Stadium just recently. And the Orioles are going to have to beat Lugo tomorrow to stay alive. So right away, the way this is set up in this first round, your back is to the wall. And right now, the Mets, who had reason to be a tied club, are right now a team that believes, and why wouldn't they? They answered everything they had to answer down the stretch of the season. And when things got tough that last week and Lindor was hurt and they lost and they weren't hitting and they lost 3 games in a row, they came back. And then they got a win in a classic. Now, listen, don't minimize that game one iota. Do I think they would have won the second game anyway? Yes. I think whoever won the first game was going to lose the second game because the quality at bat is just you want to get the game over with, just like the Mets wanted to get the game over with. And that's just human nature. You can't, that was just putting Arizona in a tough spot. But let's be honest, Arizona put themselves in a tough spot by the way they played the last week of the season. They put themselves in a tough spot. They had plenty of opportunities. They were in a commanding position, and then they went into the tank the last week of the season. When that happens, you pay the price. They paid a heavy one. But you had to be ultra impressed all the way around. And this Met team continues to just show you toughness and grit and clutch. They're not great, but you know what? They're playing a very, very good, very strong brand of baseball. And if you watch the postseason, you know that no matter how good your team is, and Joe Torre always preached this, no matter how good your team is, it's going to take your whole roster to win in the postseason. You're going to need that 20 hopper from Luis Sojo. You're going to need the reliever like Graham Lloyd to come out of the bullpen and get that one big out, strike out Ryan Klesko. You're going to need that guy to pinch run and steal a base. Ask the Red Sox. You utilize every ounce of your baseball team. No one on the roster doesn't have a role. You might make a catch, you might make a steal, you might hit a 20 hopper through the infield, you might get hit by a pitch. Who knows what it's going to be? But no matter how good you are and how big your stars are, it could very well come down to that last guy on the roster. That's part of the nature of the game in the postseason, which is what makes it so special. And the Mets have depth. Their lineup is long, and their roster is one that contributes from soup to nuts. Starting pitching, as we know, has been much better than anybody could have dreamed about. Their bullpen, hey, it can be a big question mark. So can the Yankees, as we might very soon find out. I wouldn't be surprised even a little if we do. This was a good win on a lot of levels for a team that could have easily been a tired team tonight and wasn't at full strength because they didn't have Diaz, and they were going into a place that has been very, very hard on them. And they spotted them a couple of runs, and they spotted them the lead a couple of times, and they came back. And when they got a chance to put the game away, they put it away. Mara, Mania, you know how good he's been. You can say that about a lot of the Met hurlers down the stretch. So right now, I know you just, hey, all you can do in the postseason is just take it one day at a time. As Mariana Duncan used to say, we play today, we win today. That's the idea. You can't look too far ahead. You can't think about anything except tomorrow's game. But for today, hey, a very, very impressive win on a lot of levels. From the manager to the starting pitcher to the bullpen to the guys who contributed who have really slumped. A very good win and makes tomorrow even more interesting. We'll see you later.